Everyone sees my grandfather on TV every day looking so dapper in his tie and coat, but I am one of the lucky people who gets to see him in one of his famous velour tracksuits, which he loves so much. I think my grandfather's biggest accomplishment is the family Christian legacy that he has given to all of us. And I mean, every single one of us, I mean, the children are so different, the grandchildren are so different, but the one thing we all have in common is that we all have a real relationship with Jesus.
I grew up at the office, and I'd see him in the studio oftentimes, and I thought that that was very normal. I would play hopscotch over camera wires. Every single morning he reads the Bible, whether it's on vacation or at the house. I'd have to say that that's my strongest memory of him.
He was always encouraging me to keep pursuing knowledge and education, and so I think that's a big part of shaping who I am, why I chose to go to law school, why I love academia, I love reading, and I think he really shaped me in that area. So.
I think growing up, people would always say, you know, what's it like having Pat Robertson as your grandfather? And I would always just say, you know, he's just granddaddy. I mean, to us, he's granddaddy.
I just assumed growing up that everyone's grandfather was running for president and doing all that fun stuff. Being able to see the world through his eyes, I think that's one thing that he's really given us, is a heart for God's people and all the people of the world, and just exposing us to things that we never would have known otherwise.
I think Granddaddy's faith has inspired me to pray boldly and pray big, and just the times that he's prayed for us in our lives. I mean, he's a man of such faith, and he lives it, and he believes that God hears us and he answers our prayers, and he's lived that, and I think he's really encouraged me to see that too.
He always encouraged me just to be who I was and not to be ashamed of it. He always encourages us to get in the Word and to study and to really just channel what God really wants for our lives.
He always is concerned about my health and sports, and he tries to keep me healthy and injury-free. And he always has advice to keep my elbow strong because I've gone through many injuries, and he's prescribed me many vitamins to keep my joints healthy and help me to stay young.
He always kind of had that presence in my mind as a kid of, being a strong and healthy person. I was always intrigued by that, and he was, to me, was a source of knowledge in learning about that.
I remember one time Charlie and I were in the back of the car, and he would not slow down, and I get very car sick. And Charlie looked over, and I had thrown up in a Ziploc bag rather than ask him to pull over.
I know that he prays for his family, and he prays for the generations that are beyond him, and so I think a lot of it can just be the Lord's faithfulness. So it's nothing that he did, it's God.
I think a lot of it too is just his focus on his children throughout his life too, which have enabled us to have great parents who love the Lord and wanted us to walk with the Lord in our lives.
Of course, as you probably have heard from the other grandchildren, over Christmas the tradition is we'll do the Christmas story, and he'll quiz us about all the facts, and that's been very exciting and of course competitive. When I was, 11 or 12 years old, I read a book that Granddaddy wrote, Shout It from the Housetops. I remember thinking, I didn't know any of this happened. The evidence there for God in Granddaddy's life story and in my parents' life story, and that's a backbone of my faith.
What happens on the golf course with Granddaddy stays there. You talk about the weather, talk about how much fun we had together, but in terms of who shot what and who didn't shoot it, it just kind of stays between the guys. For me, when I come back to CBN campus and see the legacy that he has and what the Lord has done through him, and so much of it just from my grandfather just surrendering and saying, okay, what's next? I think for me, just to understand just the importance of letting go.
I got baptized in the ocean right out in Virginia Beach, and so Granddaddy went in with my pastor at the time, and it was a really special moment to sort of go into your old self and come back out as your new self, especially with your grandfather right there by your side. The idea that he had the foresight to call it the Christian Broadcasting Network when it's my grandmother rolling the camera and him speaking to almost no one, it still blows my mind. And so I said, Granddaddy, that doesn't seem like a very logical path for someone from, Yale Law School to take. And I said, what made you take it? And he said, when the Lord tells you to go, you have to go.